Peace, fam. I'm gonna go right in. People talk about freedom. You want freedom? Free yourself from being dumb. Be free. Free from dumb. Do that. You know, how are you self sufficient waiting on a Savior? You are your Savior. S.O.S, Savior of self. You know, people got to get out of these semantics, playing these games with themselves. These religious, these dogmatic, so-called religious books. I'm telling you, they corrupted, deteriorated, destroyed the minds of more people than Alzheimer's, than dementia, or any of that shit ever will. This done killed more people, more minds than brain cancer. Ignorance kills. And this is killing people on a daily basis. These savior concepts and different things like that. If people would just do simple research. Savior is a Greek word. Okay, so, you know, it means it's a Greek concept. You're not Greek, is that your concept? You know, the whole God concept. It's a German word. Um, you know, and not only is it in reference to invoking or calling upon or libation or to pour, but it's also in reference to meaning like a mighty man, a he-man, extraordinary man, or so forth and so on. Pretty much like a Superman in a sense. These are where a lot of these characters come from. You know, that they design these comic books or these other cartoon characters, so forth and so on. This is where this different stuff comes from. You know, these concepts. But they're for children, and they program children. They put this concept in the mind of a child when they're young, so as they grow into an adult, they have no problem accepting the foolishness that comes with, the Bible tells and what they've been hearing and, Bible studies and so forth and so on. They'll believe these things because they're watching cartoons and reading comic books and they're seeing all of these different similar things occur. So they're, prone to believe that, these Bible tales actually occurred. And then you have an adult, someone that you rely on for proper knowledge and guidance, telling you that these things are true and that they're actual. This can be very, very misleading and unintentionally neglectful, but that's why knowledge, is power. You know, if you know better, you go better. If you knew better, you do better. You know, so you learn more so you can do more. You know, now back to what I was saying about the whole, these God concepts, these titles and different things. People need to, get out of these titles and these labels and these different things and stop growing so emotionally attached to these titles and these labels. Like I said, the Savior, that's a Greek concept. Are you Greek? Is that your concept? God, it's a German concept. Are you German? Is that your concept? Actually, God, got, good, all were similar words in meaning. And so the Gothic people were like the Goddish like people, which is dealing with dark. See, in the Germans you're dealing with or as the Jews, they call them Schwartz, in Jewish Schwartz, which, they don't really talk about that. Swastika, swastika, Schwarzenegger, Schwarzenegger, black, nigger, I don't know about that, but a lot of these different things were in reference to your ancestors, and what you're doing is playing trading places, and you brought yourself down to a lower level, and now you're looking up to things that were beneath you and that are beneath you. But people don't want to rise. They don't want to rise and be greater. They don't want to rise above. You know, they rather stay below and look up to. They rather understand as opposed to overstand. You know, they rather stand out as opposed to stand in. You know, and this is what people need to realize. You know, the illusions of this matrix is designed to keep you dumb, deaf, and blind. You know, and when I say matrix, I'm not talking about movies and, you know, the computer shit that people will be thinking when you say matrix. By definition, matrix, etymology, we're talking about the womb of a beast, of an animal, the belly of the beast. We are in the belly of the beast. So therefore, in the matrix, everything is designed to keep you in the belly of the beast. As long as you're in the belly, the beast is full. You're in the belly because the beast is feeding off of you. But you're looking for shepherds to lead you. But shepherds lead their sheep to be slaughtered. Why would you want to be a sheep? Sheep are some of the dumbest animals. They can't even think. They need to be guided to do anything. They can't stay on path. They can't stay on track. Someone has to guide them and lead them to do everything that they do. They're a rather dumb animal. Why would you refer to yourself as being a sheep or a flock of sheep? Lost sheep. Why would you want to be lost? And you're saying that someone else found you, a shepherd. What is he going to sell you? Or he's going to slaughter you himself and eat you? It's just like on a farm. People raise the animals from the time they're young. They feed them, they get them nice and fat, and they slaughter them and they eat them or they sell them. You know, so you really gotta get out of these different concepts. You know, a lot of these different concepts have really deteriorated. You know, your health. You know, have you dumb, deaf, and blind. You know, this Jesus concept. You know, the letter J, come on, do the research. The letter's not that old. The word Jesus, you know, come on, you're dealing with Roman words. Why is the so-called Hebrew who spoke Aramaic, why, you know, why does he have a Roman name? Why isn't he speaking Aramaic in the book? Why aren't you reading the book in Aramaic? Why are you reading it in Hebrew? And even if you're reading in Hebrew, and the so-called Jews of the day claim to be the chosen people of the Bible, and that they're the Hebrews, why do they speak Yiddish, which is stemmed from German language? And why aren't they speaking Aramaic or former Aramaic? Which they don't talk about this because it's an Ethiopian language. See, when you're dealing with Yahshua, different things like that, you're dealing with, you know, your culture. You're dealing with, you know, your ancestry. Um, all of that other shit, you know, that's something that was introduced to you during enslavement. And I'm pretty sure that at once upon a time, it was introduced to them during enslavement. That's how they knew it would work so good on your ass, because it worked good on their ancestors before. You know, but we're not even going to get into that. We're not going to get into that because, you know, people are still too emotionally attached, and they're not ready to go back into that. I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to throw karma and say, oh, this is karma because we enslaved people first and we taught them how to do it and so forth and so on. I mean, well, shit, they had to learn everything they learned from somebody. Now, if they took it up a notch, man, they made a variation, you know. But anyhow, you know, this perfect for enslaving people. People have to realize that the Bible displays a woman as being a helpmate or being a servant or being secondary, because before they enslaved people based upon their skin color, they enslaved people based upon their gender. And women were enslaved first. You know, check out the Inquisitions, different things like that, and what they did to the women. You know, then people have to look into also what they did to force these beliefs upon people. If these were so true and it was so, you know, righteous, people would have ran to it, they would have embraced it, they wouldn't have had to been burned and lynched and tortured, you know, and forced into accepting this and embracing these fallacies, you know, these different things that were constructed, you know, to keep you a slave. But people don't realize how politics, religion, you know, finance, how it all ties together. You know, people don't realize how everything rolls in threes and the different trinities and how that rolls, you know, and how you have the military power, you know, how you have the financial power, you know, and how you have the spiritual power, which the Vatican is the religion. They have people through religion, and that's the control faucet. facet. That's the control mechanism that they're using. Then you have military, the United States and all of their propaganda, and that's the mechanism that they're using. Then you have the finance. You're dealing with London, Greater London. But see, these people, they're not flamboyant. You have to realize that the people that are really, really pulling the strings, the puppet masters, you never see the puppet masters. You only see the puppets. Shit, you can barely see the strings. So you have to realize a lot of people are moving in silence. And the problem with a lot of people when they're talking about unifying or revolting and different things like that, or a revolution is just going in circles, revolving in circles. It's not necessarily the progress being made. What you need to do is evolve, evolution. See, this is what I'm saying about you know, uh, um, the English language and how it's equivocal, and how these words can be used out of context in a sentence. People normally refer to revolution as revolting against something, as revolt, but they forget that revolution, is also dealing with revolution, the revolving, the turning of something, like the cosmos, and the sun and the planets, and you know different things like that, Earth and all of that, the rotations and revolutions and different things. Um, Evolution is a progression. You evolve to adapt to your survival, to your environment, in order to survive. So you evolve in order to adapt to your environment to survive. If the current environment changes, then you'll have to adapt as needed. This is going back to learning your species. See, people tend to think only animals adapt. How did a giraffe get a long neck and had a short neck? You know, how and why are different species the way they are? Why do they have the design that they have? Why are they made so special and have the knacks that they have? You know, learn your species. You know, again, what works for one doesn't work for all. I really can't stress that enough. You know, you got humans sleeping like animals, four-legged animals. We're laying on our sides. We ended up with all these problems because we're laying down certain ways, sleeping the wrong way, as opposed to sleeping the way that is natural for us and most beneficial for us to sleep. I mean, shit, birds sleep standing up or upside down. It all depends. What people have to realize that, mammals, they don't change their spots and stripes. Only reptiles do. You know, and it's that reptilian mind that has us looking outside of ourselves for a savior, someone to look up to. People need to realize, um, the importance of knowledge and knowing who you are. All of these different things in the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, these different books, it's all symbolism. But if you don't have the intellect to comprehend the symbolism, then you're going to be lost and you're going to take it literal like most people do. And it's not going to benefit you at all. It's going to keep you enslaved. Because the same thing that empowers a person can also be the same tool used to enslave a person or to take the power from a person. So you have to realize this. This is the polarity of things, when you're dealing with duality and different things like that. Although the highest spectrum is, when you get to oneness, the comprehension of oneness, the understanding of oneness. The third eye is king, the crown sits on top. Um, there's no need to perish, there's no need to be destroyed. You gain knowledge, you can prevent it. You don't have to hope. You don't have to hope for a savior, for somebody to come and for someone to save you. Because these concepts, is really quite silly. And as an adult, what are you teaching a child? If you're sitting around waiting for a savior, who is their savior? So they have to sit around and wait for the same savior that you've been waiting for, that your parents and different ones have been waiting for? Or when are they going to realize that they are their savior and that they need to save themselves? You know, You're not gonna survive hoping and looking to the sky, praying for a sky daddy, you know, hoping, you know, that your sky daddy looks out for you, hoping that he comes through, which if this were real life, it would be considered a deadbeat daddy or deadbeat dad because, you know, you're constantly calling on a person, calling on something, and you're not getting a reply. If you're constantly calling your father and he's not answering the phone, you're going to think he's ignoring you. If your child is expecting their father to come and pick them up, and they're constantly looking out the window waiting for them, and they don't show up every time, they're building their hopes up. After a while, you're going to tell them to stop waiting around. Your father's not going to show up. Don't get your hopes up. And you'll probably be, the father will probably be labeled as a deadbeat. But yet, when it comes to the sky daddy is all exempt and is absent when you're going through the trials and the tribulations. When the shit happens, it's absent. When you make it through the shit, all thanks and all praises due. It brought you out of it. Well, who brought you into it? We're not going to get into the devil did it and all of that nonsense, because who allowed the devil to do it? Omniscient, omnipresent, all knowing, all saying, you know, more semantics. People are looking for a scapegoat, anything to blame, as opposed to taking ownership themselves and putting in that work themselves, putting in that necessary work to elevate themselves, to better themselves, to enhance their quality of life, as opposed to depending on these different characters, and really, Jesus got quote unquote black people just dumb, deaf and blind, just dumb, lazy, ignorant, ever since they've been introduced to the, whole Jesus concept, you know, and then they embraced it, it's like they've been dependent, they've been naive, gullible and dependent on it ever since, 400 years a slave. Their oppressor introduces them to the God, tells them this is their deity. You're embracing your oppressor's deity. So if you're still slaving and they're still mastering, obviously that deity is not for you. But you think it's a blessing in the struggle. Blessing means curse. In order to be blessed, you have to be cursed. Stop using words the wrong way. And also, people talk about superstition and superstitious. When someone sneezes and you say, God bless you, that is superstition. Some people that were young to the earth, I'm not going to name any names, but they thought that when you sneeze, that your soul can jump out of your body. So they say, God bless you, as saying like, well, good, you're lucky your soul didn't jump out of your body because you almost died. So God must have blessed you that you didn't sneeze your soul out and die. Nonsense. So if we talk about superstition, that's superstition. You know, I mean, you could throw that in line with all the other, black cat ladders, mirror breaking, all these different other things, that you've been programmed to fear. You know, stop passing fear down. Don't pass that down from generation to generation. Don't allow your children to inherit fear. You have to understand when they say you were created in the image of, or so-called, God created you in His image, or God created you in her image. The divine image of your creation is your genetics. You are created in the image of your genetics. You look like who you're gened to look like. So we need to really get into the science. The genes are nothing but ancestors. Science says genes. We say ancestors. So again, if you want freedom, free yourself from being dumb. Be free. Free from dumb. And that's your freedom. Stop looking outside yourself. You are your savior of self. You don't have to fear anything. There's no need for fear. Replace the fear with confidence. You are the mighty lion. You know, you are these different figures. That's my pack, man. um, uh, you are these different figures that are spoken of in these different so-called holy books. And holy books means sun. Holy means sun. Sun book. Books of the sun. These are all different books of the sun. The sun, S-U-N, not S-O-N. So you have to realize the connections between these things. The elements, the cross. Air, fire, water, earth. You know, the way the mind is divided. You know, left, right, front, back. You know, as above, below, in, out. You know, it's really a comprehension that a lot of people are lacking of what this really means, and people get stuck in a lot of semantics. You know, people get stuck in the whole black thing, get stuck in the Kemet thing, and the this and the that, and you know, the term black. The term black is not an ancient word. I mentioned that before. The word black is no older than 500 years old, something like that, or whatever. It's a German word, you know. So, you know, how could Kemet mean black? If anything, black would mean Kemet, if the word Kemet came first. See the semantics that people are playing with you, that they play with themselves. They really believe this. You know, um, history, when they tell you about these great conquerors and these different individuals, how do you even know that these people ever existed? Alexander the Great, so-called, all these different individuals, and that they really did what they did. You know, that they really conquered these armies and traveled and conquered all of these different lands. For one, they didn't deplete their resources. They didn't get exhausted. Where was their food supply? Their water? You know, how were they nutritionally? You know, how weren't they malnourished? How were they able to go thousands and thousands of miles and then fight? Where to get the energy? And if you had hundreds and thousands of troops marching on other lands to conquer other territory, who was protecting their land or their territory? Who was protecting their women and children? See, these concepts come to you through movies, and a lot of this nonsense, these notions didn't even exist before television, media, radio, so forth and so on. A lot of these things have been pushed to you over the past 100 or so years once these devices came into effect, and they've been pushing these images on you. Kung Fu movies. You ever notice in the old school Kung Fu movies, as much as so-called black people like to watch these movies, you never see any melanated people in these movies. So you mean to tell me is no, there's no dark-skinned people in Shaolin? See what I'm saying? This is this color supremacy, this paler, this lighter complexion supremacy, this image that's been pushed on our people to make us think that we are the minority and that the world looks different from us and we look different from them and we are inferior because the majority looks like them. So yeah, the Kung Fu movies that played on it. You know, they rob our culture, they give it back to you, you know, with a different face on it. You know where these different styles and traditions and where these different things come from, the ceremonies, the robes, the names, so forth and so on, you know, but they cover that up through these movies, through these books, you know, that they put out, and people really think that this information is accurate. You know, it's not. You know, it's used to deceive you, you know. So again, getting caught up in the semantics and different things, you know. Then you know they'll give you something like the 300, and they'll give you this old story and how they did these things, these crazy, you know, wild feats, and how they did conquer all of the, you know, the majority of the Persian army, you know, only 300 troops. Has anyone ever noticed that on their shield there's a pyramid, or if you tilt it from side, it's an L. We all know what L relates to, what the pyramid relates to. Now, lambda is L in Greek. Lamb. Lamb of who? Now, their society was totally different than all the other Greek societies. They were more ancient society. They did things a different way. They respected their women. The women actually had a place in government. They actually ran this system differently. they actually practice um, um, racial purification and keeping their race pure and not mixing with other races. This is where Hitler actually got some of his concepts from, of the whole creating a master race ideology. But yes, if you look at any of the wars, world wars, Vietnam, any of those wars, it's always been the melanated people that have came through in small numbers and really done, um, really conquered the odds. You know, thus that's what happened 300 also. But I'm not going to get into all those stories about that and so forth and so on. But if you do your research, you can make the connections. But then see, but to say that, then a person wonders, well, if they're the Greek, then they were melanated with the melanated Greeks. Well, melanin is a Greek word. Again, how can melanin mean black if black is a German word? Greek language is older than German language. So again, black would have to mean melanin. Melanin doesn't mean black. See the semantics, how they playing with you. They're giving you a little bit of knowledge, but they're playing with you. They're giving you the knowledge, but they're playing with your emotions still. And this is going to keep you at a low vibration. See, this physical realm, they mastered how to keep our people stuck in this physical realm. We're more of a spiritual people, and they got us stuck in the physical realm. We're thinking too physical. We're thinking too materialistic. We talk revolution, but we're not talking about changing currency, creating a new currency, our own currency. How are you going to revolt against your oppressor, but you're still using and validating your oppressor's currency? If you invalidate it, it has no effect over you or your people. It has no value to you. So you devalue it and you create your own in place that has a value, as opposed to trying to tell people to chase these imaginary. You're still telling your people to pick cotton, because once again, the paper bills that's made out of cotton. They say a dollar is only worth 4 cents. Yeah, 4 pennies if they're 4 copper pennies. But they stopped making copper pennies. Was it after 1982? So if the penny's not older than that, if it didn't come before 1982, it's not a copper penny. So therefore, it has no value. So your dollar has no value. See, but that's another part of economics that people need to comprehend. They need to comprehend the guns and butter of economics, whether it be domestic home economics, whether it be business economics, whether it be nature economics, whether it be educational economics, because economics, we're dealing with ecosystem, what surrounds you, your environment. So with that being said, think outside the box, eliminate the box. You don't need the box. You don't have to think outside the box. Step outside of the box and think. Because that's the only way you'll ever be able to realize or see that you were in a box. You know, we have to stop double thinking, double talking. We have to stop being semantic with ourselves because we're emotionally attached to certain theories and ideologies. We have to go beyond that. People are stuck on this Kemet or this Egypt thing. Kush came first. You know, you're dealing with the baby. Who's the mother? Who's the grandmother? Why are we not mentioning Kush? Why are we not mentioning the Congo? Why are we talking about giants and things like that, but we're not mentioning the Twa? You know, so these are all things that we really need to take into consideration when we research so-called history. But see, when you label it as history, you're already kind of setting up the path for failure because there is no history, there is no her story. It is our story. It is the story. So when you study the story, things will come to light. When you study the story without bias, things will come to light. And you will comprehend things and be able to utilize this information in a more beneficial way. So, like I said, stop looking outside yourself. Stop searching for saviors that were created by men, because who introduced you to your concept of God? Did man introduce you to the concept of God, or did God introduce you to the concept? This is a man-made thing. Your concept. Man gave you the concept of God. God didn't come to you and give you the concept. But the true concept is your intuition, your fruition. Think on that. Till next time, fam. Peace, peace, peace. rise and be greater.